What's up, everybody? It's KBR Sports, the best sports talk show 24 hours a day, back from the break. Don't forget, y'all can tune in to KBR Sports by following and subscribing on Rabble TV, Spreaker, YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Also, don't forget you can follow KBR Sports on Twitter at KBR_sports, where we tweet the live links to our show and podcast prior to every show. Also, as our show topics. Don't forget to also call in at 571-991-0566 anytime you want to give your opinion on a certain topic we may be discussing, or anytime you guys just want to, bring up a certain topic you may want to talk about. Remember, the number is 571-991-0566. And don't forget to also comment, like, and share the KBR Sports podcast to show your support for the show, which we gravely appreciate. All right, so touching on the Los Angeles Clippers, Nigel actually brought up the Clippers on Friday. Nigel, can you give a quick summary of what you said on Friday about the Clippers and what was wrong with them?
There's a lot wrong with them, though. Which one's doing
quick summary?
Don't have a small forward. They're old. They're unathletic. Their window's closed this season.
Okay, so do you think their window officially closed when they failed to get CarMelo Anthony, Paul George, or any of the sort at the trade deadline?
Never had anything. Did not have enough to get Paul George. First of all, no, and CarMelo would have made a difference.
But, I mean, it would have still been something new to the team.
To the team, but
they would have improved with CarMelo.
Doesn't make them better.
And you don't think it made them better at all?
Not really.
Because you don't have to give away any of your big three.
Completely lose their bench, though, which is already weak.
I think you would have literally got a bag of chips for CarMelo. That's what. The only reason why they didn't want to make the move was because Chris Paul was hurt.
Yeah, they got rid of Raymond Felton, who's their backup point guard. They would have had to include Jamal Crawford, who's their sixth man, and probably another bench player. That's 3 bench players for CarMelo Anthony.
Well, essentially, you would have been able to keep at least one ball handler, though.
Who?
Probably would have kept Austin Rivers. If you had to give away Raymond Felton, you would have kept Austin Rivers.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's when you just play. You play like a lineup similar, even though it's not the Warriors, but you play a line. We all know they're as good as the Warriors, but
so what's the point of making the move?
No, but here's the thing, though. But now you add in the element of the Warriors injured. You see, Kevin Durant's hurt now.
I still take the Warriors.
You still take the Warriors over them?
Not even close.
Really?
They would still be the.
I think we've had discussions.
It's not even. It's not a discussion.
I'm really impressed that you stuck to it still this far.
It's not a discussion. Even with the Warriors being hurt, I still take them.
I don't know.
You know what? I would go as far as no, I'm not gonna go that far. But still, I would take the Warriors. I would take the Warriors probably in like 5 games, honestly.
5 games if they had CarMelo.
5 games, 6 games if they're lucky.
Sheesh.
Man. It's just not a good matchup for them.
I mean, I think if they would have got CarMelo, like they needed to get, if they would have got CarMelo, this Kevin Durant's injury would have made things more interesting. No. And I think that if you got CarMelo, this was the chance. Like you had to have made it. You can't stand packed as you are and just expect to make a run. Like right now, they're fighting for the 4th seed.
They're the 4th best, even with CarMelo. They're only the 4th best team in the West. They don't beat the Spurs, and I don't think they're the Warriors. And they don't beat the Warriors. They definitely don't beat the Warriors. They definitely don't beat the Spurs. I give them like a 20% chance against the Rockets.
Houston, I don't know. I think they could possibly beat the Rockets.
I take the Rockets.
The Rockets to me are kind of undersized on them.
So the Warriors are undersized. What's your point?
The Warriors. I think the Warriors is a better defensive team than Houston.
They absolutely are, but Houston's been second best offensive team in the league.
That's the thing. I think the Clippers kind of balance out at where it matters, though.
And it's not like the Clippers are terrible on defense anyway.
Is that sarcasm?
No, that's serious. They're bad on defense since All-Star break.
Since the All-Star break?
Yeah, they've been bad on defense.
That's the thing. I wonder how the whole transition would have worked out if you would have got CarMelo. And then how many more games do you win? How many more games do you lose if you have CarMelo?
Like, you probably lose more because you have to integrate CarMelo.
You have to integrate him, but don't you win some games just off of talent as well?
No, not really.
Yeah, so what the Warriors did, even though the Warriors became really proficient later down the line.
Guess who's a more talented team?
The Warriors.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying, but it's not like with the Clippers. It's all about fit, and the way you fit CarMelo is not the same way you had to fit Miami's big 3 with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. Because the way, even though that's the easy one to go to, because a lot of people always say those guys started out 8 and 9 or whatever. Those guys also, Dwayne Wade and LeBron James did essentially the same thing on the team. So trying to integrate the two of them, it was very difficult. And so Dwayne Wade essentially took a step back, and LeBron just handled primary ball handler responsibility.
But you know what the great thing about those two were?
They're very good.
They're very good, and they're both playmakers. They're both absolutely willing to make a pass to do whatever they need to. CarMelo's not a playmaker.
That's what I'm saying. That's what makes the transition easier. He doesn't have to try and playmake.
Yeah,
Chris Paul's the main playmaker. Blake Griffin's a knockoff playmaker.
So not a knockoff playmaker.
This season he's been.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about this year.
Okay.
But in this essence, so Carmelo doesn't have to play make, so he just has to do what he does and score. Chris Paul will put him in better situations to score.
No, it's not just he puts him in better. No, you have to find out. You start to find out the guy's spots that he likes to go to.
You know, you do. I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying just off of talent, Chris Paul naturally, just playing basketball, Chris Paul is a great playmaker naturally, and he will find Carmelo in the spots he likes. So I mean, I think
he clogs the lane more for DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin.
You said what?
He clogs the lane up for DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin.
Well, see, now that would be the issue, but I think they would be able to utilize him and like actually have him space out the court. I don't think he would clog it up because Carmelo can shoot the three, so it's not like he has to be in the paint area. He's most efficient around the rim and in the painted area.
That's shooting the 3 ball this year.
No, but I'm saying he can't shoot the three. I'm not saying he's JJ Redick, but I'm saying he can't shoot the three.
He can't.
Guys that can shoot the three, space the floor. Andre Iguodala can't shoot the three. He's not Steph Curry in them, but he can shoot the three. So it still spaces the court. I mean, it's better than who is it, Luka Mbamute? So I mean, he's way more offensively gifted than Luka Mbamute. So I think even just having Carmelo, I think your team still improves.
I don't think so.
All right, y'all.
No, hold on.
We're overtime.
I know, but hold on. I want to make a point.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but
Hey, what?
No, 1 second. It's like one quick. I think the Clippers window closed when they didn't trade Chris Paul after Blake Griffin's
injury.
No, when he finished third in MVP.
Why?
At that point, you should just go around Blake.
So you think Chris Paul is the source of the issue?
I don't think it's a source of the issue, but I don't think Chris Paul needs the ball in his hands. Blake Griffin needs the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he does.
It's not like a situation where Chris Paul is a dominant scorer and Blake Griffin's a dominant scorer. You need just put the ball in Blake Griffin's hands. Dominant scoring is more valuable than anything in the league. If you can have it attract attention, you attract everything, and you let him be the facilitator. You get a point. You can trade Chris Paul and get pieces back to put around Griffin. You can hopefully get another star from Chris Paul to build around to fit him. So when they didn't trade him, they kept him, and Blake Griffin got hurt, Chris Paul got hurt, Blake Griffin got hurt, Chris Paul got hurt, Blake Griffin got hurt, Chris Paul got hurt, and it's just kind of like going now that you can't trade Chris Paul, you're not going to let him walk either. So you're kind of just screwed.
Last thing is Blake Griffin a dominant scorer?
He wasn't a dominant scorer, but he was a dominant force. That after that year, you say, you know what? We'll take the chance that he's going to keep developing rather than regress, which may have happened because Chris Paul was still on the team. Because
that's a fair point, but it also could have been the same. And you're still just worse.
Could be, but
like they say, you don't trade away. If you trade away $1, you get 4 nickels in return. The 4 nickels will never amount to what the dollar was. Chris Paul's $1, and you give him away for 4 nickels. But it'll never amount to.
It depends on what those 4 nickels are, though. If you get a 4 nickels and one of them happens to be a gold dollar, or like a 50-cent piece or something like that, you still get the three nickels, which are nice to have. And you get the 50-cent piece. No, it may not ever be Chris Paul, but it's okay if the fit is good enough to fit. If they get an athletic wing, a point guard that can spot up and knock down threes and play defense, and some bench pieces. Are they and they let Blake Griffin keep developing with the ball, being more comfortable with the ball in his hands, getting his spots, doing all that, such and such, and he keeps doing. I think they're still in the same spot, probably.
That's the thing. You're not better off or for worse with that scenario. And let me just real quick.
Yeah.
If you do that move, JJ Redick spaces the court. So if you get Chris Paul still spaces the court, even though they give the ball to Blake Griffin down low. Chris Paul still able to space the court. And I get the athletic wing part. That's something they've always needed at the 3 spot. They always need an athletic wing. So in that sense. But essentially, you're downgrading at every single position except for the 3. If you get rid of Chris Paul, whoever you get at point guard is not going to be as good as Chris Paul.
No.
And Chris Paul still shoots 41% from the 3 right now.
Yeah.
So who are you get in return? Unless I guess for you, I guess the premise of this point is just that Blake Griffin would have had to have developed to such a point that the subtraction of Paul wouldn't have mattered.
That's my point. He was a top 5 player that year.
See, that's the thing. I don't think
he was a top 5 player that year. You say, you know what? We're gonna rely on Blake to keep improving. The other problem is now you're gonna pay Chris Paul $30 million this offseason. He's 30, off the top of my head, 33 years old. You're going to have to give him a $30 million contract for a minimum of 3 years, probably. He's 31.
Yeah, he's 31. He's
31.
James.
Yeah, he's 31. Yeah, he's 31. You're going to have to give him a 4-year deal to an injury-prone point guard, a 6-foot injury-prone point guard. $30 million. You're going to have to pay Blake $30 million on top of that. you're capped out to no end. This team, you can't do anything with this team at this point.
But that's the thing. It's like you would still be in the same situation. You actually might be worse.
Mm-mm.
Because think about it. If Blake still sustains injuries, you don't have Chris Paul to uplift you during all the times Blake is out. So I mean, is this DeAndre and whoever else?
But that's the point. Has Chris Paul?
He has.
I love that he has. But has he uplifted this team to a championship contending team?
No, but Blake hasn't either.
Nick, that's the problem. Your question is, does Blake maybe do that if you let him become the number one option?
Well, here's the thing. Blake is the number one option.
The number one de facto player on that team.
So I guess we're agreeing. Chris Paul's a better player than Blake Griffin. I think Chris Paul is better. Do you agree Chris Paul is better than Blake Griffin?
Yeah, well, I'll take that.
You think he's better than Blake Griffin?
I'll take that.
So I think if you get rid of the worst guy, and Chris Paul, you get rid of the worst guy, or you get rid of the better player and Chris Paul, and you're preying on Blake Griffin's ascension, I don't even think Blake Griffin becomes better than Anthony Davis. Even if you let him develop,
if he's not Anthony Davis, if he can be DeMarcus Cousins level good.
That's the thing. I don't think Blake Griffin is just not that.
He had that year. He absolutely was.
He had that year. But the problem was that I don't know what it is about Blake Griffin, but it's just like his all around game. Like he doesn't. I don't know what it is because he's shown that he can play make. He's shown that he can score. But that's the thing. His scoring ability hasn't been
because the problem with that is because he's moving away from the paint because he's trying to space the court for Chris Paul to get into the paint and DeAndre Jordan to work. That's what I'm saying. If you take Chris Paul off that team and you say, hey, we're gonna get a guy who's more of a shooter and just playing defense more than playmaking, more so that takes a back burner. Blake Griffin, you're the number one. You're gonna be the playmaker of this team.
Well, don't you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your point.
You're gonna be the playmaker of this team. You're gonna play make from the high post and you're gonna play make from the low post. That's gonna be your two spots. We're not gonna have you flow out to the 3-point because if you look up his numbers, every single year he takes less and less shots in the paint. He works further and further away from the basket. So that's what I'm saying. If you say you're gonna work you only from high post and free throw line down, we're not gonna have you flow out to the 3-point line. We're not gonna have any. You're gonna cut down your mid range shots. You're gonna go closer to the paint. His scoring, I guarantee goes the same.
I think it will improve, but the thing is, you have to expand your game.
He does.
And the thing is, I think a lot of even Blake Griffin's easy buckets he gets is because Chris Paul on the court.
Oh, some of them, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. So you take Chris Paul off, you take that other ball handler off, you put so much more onus on Blake Griffin, and I just don't see how it happens. Like he's never been that dominant to the extent that Dwight Howard was that dominant. Dwight Howard led a team of 3-point shooters to the NBA Finals. He's never been that dominant that he could.
Oh, hold on a second. I'm gonna stop you right there for a second.
No, because think about this. Even though Blake did finish third in MVP voting, but the thing is, he still had Chris Paul for that season. He played majority of that season. Not majority, portion of that season when Chris Paul was out, but he still had Chris Paul to help him get some wins. You just take Chris Paul out of that equation entirely. I think Davis can't even lift the team. Even though if you say you trade Chris Paul, you get better requisite pieces, then that's where you have the case against Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's the only thing. But he's not as good as Anthony Davis. He's not as good defensively or anything as Anthony Davis. The only thing that helps him, he doesn't even touch Anthony Davis. Come on, he doesn't. The only thing that helps him is he had DeAndre Jordan behind him. That's the main point of emphasis.
He would still be there.
That's the main. That's what I'm saying. That's the main point of emphasis that helps him. But even in that aspect, a lot of points are created because of Chris Paul's ability to throw up lobs, dribble, penetrate. If you take away Blake, and then Blake Griffin, if you think about it, if Chris Paul isn't there, does Blake Griffin develop his mid-range shot? Yeah. Develop the 3-point shot? Yeah. He's never forced to.
No, it may be for better for Blake Griffin, to be honest.
I don't know.
I mean, the mid-range shot he was going to develop no matter what. He was working on mid-range shot in college. I mean, that was coming along. But the 3-point shot, I don't know if that ever comes up. And to be honest, like I said, Blake constantly now floats around the perimeter. He has the LaMarcus Aldridge syndrome where he just constantly just floats away from the paint because that's the system, and it's not for the betterment of the player. It just makes him worse, honestly.
All right, y'all.
Yeah, it's the show.
Okay, all right, y'all. Let's go wrap it up for today's show. It's been KBR Sports, the best sports talk show, your 24-hour day. Remember to follow us and subscribe to us on Rabble TV, Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes. Also, don't forget to follow the KBR Sports page at KBR_sports, where we tweet the live links and show topics prior to every show. Also, don't forget, you guys can call in at 571-991-0566. If you guys ever want to chime in on anything we're discussing, whether it's the Steph Curry topic we talked about earlier, whether it's NBA players resting, LeVar Ball and LeBron, the Clippers, remember, the number is 571-991-0566. And please comment and tweet us your opinions about these topics so we can get you guys feeling on these different topics so we can see how you all feel about all the different topics that we discussed. And once again, the comic book fact that I read earlier in the show when I discussed the NBA players resting, I'm going to reread it again now. Darkseid once defeated Superman with only 2 punches. The Man of Steel got beat in 2 punches. One of the blows knocked out Superman and even caused him to bleed. For those of you who don't know, Superman doesn't bleed at all because he's literally Kryptonian, so he doesn't bleed unless he's exposed to kryptonite. He's even taken a blast from the full power of Hal Jordan's ring. Hal Jordan, the original or the Green Lantern. Hal drained his entire ring onto Darkseid and it didn't even phase him. That just shows how much of a bad man Darkseid is. All right, Najee, you got the inspirational quote of the day.
Talent is cheaper than table salt. What separates the talented individual from the successful one is a lot of hard work.
Talent is cheaper than table salt.
Yeah, talent is cheaper than table salt.
So I can go get some talent right now.
You have talent. You have talent right now. You're a talented individual.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Don't forget, guys. This podcast is sponsored by Big Baller Brand.
Prince the producer.
Have a good night.
I hate you.
That's what makes it love.
Man complains about football, then sponsors him.
I still want a paycheck from him. Are you off?
No.
Oh. LeVar, if you're listening.
Oh.